The Kevin Long Show, a product of the Southgate Media Group. You can find us at southgatemediagroup.com. Music is Masters of Disorder by Kevin McClellan of Incomputech.com. Royalty-free music as long as you give the dude his prop. All right, it's that time of the week again. Time for the Kevin Long Show, and I'm your host, Kevin Long. And today we have a special guest.
Close, Racheal.
From Women in Gaming, .com? What?
Women in Tabletop Gaming Month. Now you got me questioning it. Hold on. I think it's Women in Tabletop Gaming Month.com is the website.
Perfect.
I'm gonna double check that because I don't want to be wrong.
I don't know. I just pushed the retweet button.
Topgamingmonth.com. Yes, that's the full thing.
Sweet. So, what is Women in Tabletop Gaming.com?
So, short story is that it's a chance for women in the tabletop role-playing community. That includes, D&D, Warhammer, Numenera, anything and everything related to tabletop gaming. It's a chance for women to kind of come out with a voice and speak about their experiences, whether it's positive or negative, and kind of show that, hey, we exist in the community. We have a voice. We are players. We are DMs. We are dice creators. We are content writers. Basically, just a way to showcase creators in the community that are women, because there's a lot of myths, I guess, that we don't exist, or we don't. Not that we don't exist necessarily, but if we exist, it's only in tandem with a male counterpart, or it's only, because, we're mildly interested, that we're not like the hardcore gamers, like a lot of men tend to be, or, basically that we are almost like a lesser sub-community of the larger. And it's
so kind of like real life.
Yeah, like that we're our own species, like, which we're not. So it's just a chance for women to kind of showcase, like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I create. These are the obstacles I've overcome, if there are any. And we've had very positive experiences all the way to very negative experiences, and kind of also bringing to the light that, hey, these experiences that some of these women have had is not okay. It is not okay to treat us lesser. It's not okay to treat us inferior. It's not okay that you force us to play the roles we don't want to play, or you tell us we're doing it wrong, because there is no wrong in tabletop gaming.
Right.
So it's just that kind of like opening the discussion. The website basically right now is housing a bunch of blog posts. It's hosting our, we've been doing some roundtable discussions on Wednesdays, where we have a couple of the ladies on and we talk about, what do they like, how they get into it, that kind of stuff. So we've got those up on the site. We have schedules about other streamers who are streaming live games, things like that. So it's kind of the catch-all of all the content that we've gathered and created.
That's pretty cool. So why did you, how did you get into this, and why did we pick June as the month for women in tabletop gaming?
So, two very good questions. I believe how did we get into it should come first. Bethany and I know a really, really great guy, David Ginsberg, who actually did it last year. And he is part of our local community here, which we host the official term is the Orlando Tabletop Content Creators something meetup. But basically it's podcasters and writers and DMs, and everybody get together once a month, and we have dinner, and then we go to a game store and play a card game or something. So we met him through this, and last year he spoke about it. We were all super excited. I believe his reasoning for doing it in June is because it's also the Pride Month, so it's a chance to kind of, I don't want to say like lump us in with that or anything like that, but there's already a lot of, minority voices that are, coming up and being heard. So I think that might have been part of his reasoning, but, really, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
So he did that last year, and then in, I think it was like February, March time frame, he kind of tweeted that he was looking for somebody to maybe take it over because he has too much on his plate with his regular podcast, his regular work, and everything. And Bethany and I were kind of side-eyeing it, going, well, maybe we could, like, we don't know, we both work, and we have our other stuff, we have our other podcasts going on and everything. And I think Bethany just wound up reaching out and go, hey, have you had anybody, kind of help you with this or step forward? And he said no, and we're like, all right, we'll do it. Sure, throw it at us. Let us know what you got. So April, he handed off everything over to us in April because we had about 2 months to prep everything. Whereas I think he spent a good 6 or 8 months prepping. So we're like, all right, step 1, what do we want to accomplish? What do we want to highlight? What do we want to do? Step 2, how do we do it?
Step 3, ignore people's emails.
Yeah, there's, with 2 of us going on, and then we've had, of course, like my life stuff. I had a job change and everything, like right in the middle of it all.
Oh, dang.
With her full-time work, she had like a huge release come up, and a couple people on her team like quit and things. So between the 2 of us, we're like, well, we got this. It's only a small dumpster fire. It's fine. But it's been really, the prep work was a lot. The prep work was a little frantic for us, but then the actual month of June has gone very smooth as far as how we planned everything out. But that was the initial goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was in the video Twitch thing last night. There are plans for something next year?
Yes, I think we are definitely going to try to do it again next year now that we have, we essentially did the Crash Course 101 this year, and we have taken extensive notes because both of us are tech writers by trade. So, we've got our notes, we've got our plans, we've got our, breakdown of how did it go, how could it have gone better, what did we screw up with. So I think we're definitely going to try to do it again next year. We don't know the capacity of it next year, but we know what we liked this year for sure. And what we definitely would like to do again next year, which is basically just a lot of the same stuff, which is highlighting, women that are creating and women that are, showing up and being at the table and saying, I'm here, like, let me play.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So how close are we to having merchandise?
That's funny. When we initially kicked it off, all our, come to us with your stories thing, we actually had a couple of people message us about merchandise. I think by next year we might be able to definitely have some merchandise. I'm hoping that would be cool. Don't hold me to it though, because the logo, we did get an approval from the logo creator that we could use it for things, but with the time crunch that we were under this year, we just didn't have that. That was on the peripherals.
Right.
If all of this falls into place easily, then that. But everything kind of didn't fall in. I don't want to say as easily because it went about as well as we planned. As far as the prepping and everything, we thankfully did not overbook ourselves or anything crazy like that. We also had the fear going into it of the 2 ends of the spectrum going, what if we put this thing out there and nobody responds, just crickets and dead air, oh no, we won't have any content. And then the other end of the spectrum is, what if we put this out and we just get swamped with with so much content and everything that we can't fully process any of it, to the point we're just covered. And luckily it fell in a really happy medium where we got just enough that we could work with a little extra bonus content basically, and we're perfect, this is what we wanted, even though we were terrified to be at either end of the spectrum. So going forward, we know kind of what to expect and how to reach out better. So we're hoping to keep things going.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're happy.
So how do we promote it in such a way that people know we're there? For example, I've always felt that your group, your community, they know you're there. But the people that need to hear the message are the ones that aren't getting it.
Yes. So I think it's kind of, I don't know, I want to say counterintuitive, but to me, the best way to, and take this, in terms of, I'm extremely extroverted. I have no fear of walking up to a group of people and saying, hey, let me in on this, muscling my way into a chair.
I got that.
So And I know that's hard for a lot of people because, you're shy or you're not comfortable in that situation for, whatever number of reasons. But if one or two more women goes, you know what, I can do this, and goes in and kind of muscles their way into the table, then it's going to slowly snowball into, well, that girl did it, I can do it. And, those two did it, I can definitely do it. Like, that's the shyest person I know. So I think we're hoping that by us kind of, coming up and saying, hey, we've done it, we've been there, I've walked up to tables and been like, hey, what are you playing? Can I play? Can I jump in? Sometimes it's a yes, and sometimes it's, the five gentlemen at the table just stare at me like wide-eyed, like I am a, four-headed monster with, black wings of fury, and I'm just like ready to, rip them in half, and they're like terrified. I'm just like, okay, well then you guys have a wonderful night, and I'm going to move to the next table. Thank you for your time, I guess, and move on. I think approaching it with, kindness, because obviously it's a lot of ignorance, or it's a lot of, stereotypes you're being held onto, and just trying to break through those as politely as possible without being, that person.
Right.
Because we don't want to be like rude about it, but we also want to make sure we're heard, and we want to make sure we're understood. So that's kind of our goal, is to, make it less scary for other women to do, because it's like, you can do it. We promise you. It is terrifying at times. It is hard at times. You will have some of those people that you hear the horror stories about. You got to either break through and slap them in the face and go, that's not right, or you have to hopefully walk away and move to somewhere else that you can get away from that situation.
Right. So you do it on Wednesday. What time is your Twitch show on Wednesdays?
So it's just for the month of June that we're doing it.
So there's one more.
So there's one more. And it is starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, is when we officially kind of go live. We're live technically around 7, but it's just like the starting now screen. So there wouldn't be that. But it's roughly 7:30-ish till about 8:30-ish.
Sweet. And how did you decide who was going to be on your shows versus just throwing up their stories on the blog?
So we actually, there was actually a process. We did the blog, and in the blog questions, there was a question about, would you be interested in being on our roundtable? And then Bethany and I went and deliberated back and forth, what is the number we feel comfortable, having at a time? Because we didn't want to have, one person and it be like awkward moments of silence while they're thinking, but we didn't want to have six ladies come on and everybody's trying to talk over each other or anything crazy. So we decided around 3 to 4 people would be a really good number to cover, a handful of questions, kind of have a fun time, and enough, voices to keep the silence out, but also not everybody, jumbling for time. So once we decided, okay, we're gonna have like 4 slots available each night, then we anybody who responded yes, because you could have selected yes, no, or maybe. So anybody who said yes was in our first wave of, if you're definitely interested, here are the slots, please sign up. If those didn't get all filled, which I don't think after the yeses that they got all filled, then we went to people who said maybe. And we said, okay, well, here's the exact details. Here are the slots we still have available. Are you still interested or kind of interested? And then from there, we just kind of did it as more of a first come, first serve, only because of the time constraint we had this year. Looking at our schedules, we could only do Wednesday nights, and only in that tiny narrow window, because of Bethany does a lot of I don't want to say extracurricular, but it's like extracurricular stuff.
It's like sports, but not.
yeah. So she had a lot of stuff going on for that as well during the month of June. So she's like, the only night I can do it is Wednesday. I said, okay, we're doing it Wednesday. And that was because my nights are a little bit more flexible. And I don't know how much you watched of the other night, but we did almost like a division of roles. I ran the tech and the stream portion of it, and she ran the interview portion.
Last night's show, I watched all of it. The first two I watched until the storm interrupted the internet.
It happens.
And then I'm like, I gotta go do stuff.
Yeah. The first one was a nightmare from a logistics streaming point because my internet was booting me off and rebooting the stream. Call went great, interview went great, but the actual stream portion was just crunchy and I was internally screaming.
So, do the questions on the streams, are they different than the questions that are on the blog? Or are they the same?
There are a couple of repeats, and then I think Bethany added 2 newish / different questions. And then, of course, if anybody posts a question in the chat, we try to pull those in as well. Just to keep it, so it's not just repeating what's on the blog, but it's also a little bit more freeform and fun, I like to say.
That's cool. Last week, you had a lady on that has been playing for 30 years. That's awesome.
Yes.
But has anyone on your blog been like, or not on the blog, but on the stream been like, oh, last week was my first game? Is it pretty, do you have both ends of the spectrum, or has everybody on the stream had more than 2 weeks of gaming experience?
I think, I want to say everybody's had, I think the shortest amount of time I want to say is a couple months, like 4 months maybe, I think was in the first week, one of the girls. And then all the way up to like the 30 years. But they do all have some experience with a tabletop game.
Sweet.
We've had Savage Worlds, D&D. I want to say one of the girls had Blades in the Dark.
I know there was one lady on the blog that does Warhammer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I felt kind of bad because I am in an online group on Facebook that's Warhammer Queens, and it's all, ladies who are in the Warhammer tabletop playing arena. And when we sent out the blog questions, we pretty much, and this is, our lack of knowledge, for better term, we sent out the questions asking, like, which of these tabletop games, and they're 99% role-play games and not really miniature war games. So, like, Warhammer, Malifaux, I think is how you pronounce it. All of those weren't included, and that's only because we're not knowledgeable of those tabletops, of those games. So I had one of the ladies kind of reach back out, and she's like, hey, like, did you want me to fill out this thing? Because I play, like, these games, and none of them are listed. And I'm like, please add them so we can grow our list for next year, because they're not added because we simply don't know. I know Warhammer. That's about the extent of what I know. And I don't even know how to play it. I just have some miniatures that I painted.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I told her, I'm like, no, by all means, we really, really want you guys to, come forward and speak about, like, what you've gone through, because it is going to be slightly different than, D&D or other tabletop games, because it's a war game.
Like, I could imagine that in some of those instances, it's going to be way worse, because, yeah, in D&D, you have the rule lawyer, and as the DM, you can kind of curve that, but I've seen how guys argue over Warhammer. I could only imagine what it was like if you were playing a guy and getting into those arguments.
Yeah, that's I was like, no, please, we want to know what you've experienced, because it's a game that's played on a tabletop. That's where we draw the line. Is it a tabletop versus a video game, basically.
So you said you had a podcast. What is that?
So the podcast that Bethany and I work on and run together is called D&D Raw, or D&D Rules as Written, and it's a mix. We have 2 different segments. We have our actual play segment, which is currently two groups going through the same world, and we're playing we're actually in 2 separate groups. And then the other segment is everything from feats to fall damage to, like our first episode, it's about like terminal velocity and falling and gravity and, like pretty nerdy stuff. And then how to break it, how to, follow the rules, and how different spells can, work. Kind of stuff like that.
Nice. That's awesome. Nerds. So what's going to happen to the website after June?
So we're definitely gonna leave it up. It's gonna maintain a live, active thing. We're still gonna try to kind of quietly promote it through the rest of the year, to keep it up and running, and kind of keep a little traffic going to it, because I think our goal is to later in the year / very early next year. Kind of start ramping it up again. Like I said, both of us are tech writers, so we know how like the project management, things go. You ramp up,
flow chart.
Yeah. So I think our goal is to keep it active, but on a much smaller scale through the rest of the year, and then kind of early next year, definitely start. Would really like to do more streams next year because they've been a lot of fun, and we've had
That's all cool. Well, thank you so much for having us. Thanks so much for joining us. And
thanks so much for being here.
And to a guest, and the host was like, "Thanks for taking a moment of our time."
There you go. Thanks for taking a moment of our time.
Yeah, but thanks so much for coming on the show and talking about what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and getting this all arranged. I look forward to hearing the final cut.
Yeah. Again, thank you for listening to The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Facebook by searching The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Twitter at The Kevin Long SH1, or you can email the show at thekevinlongshow.com.